What is going on, everybody? We are back with another ranking video. It's fun doing these because you get to see what the actual setup behind the screen that's usually right here is. And it's all bad. That's why there's a screen there. Now, what's going on, guys? I'm super excited for this. So I am recording this the day after I recorded my other stuff. It's still going to be released on the same day as the other two videos for Goosebumps. However, this is the ranking of the first season in terms of my favorites. Okay, I want you to understand that. This isn't an objective sense. This isn't what I think are truly cinema-wise better. This is just more what kind of enjoyment did I personally get from the episodes. There's going to be a couple surprises, a couple not surprises if you've been following along. And again, what will be replacing Goosebumps for the foreseeable, well, for the next couple weeks at least, a week or two, is going to be a show called Armchair Thriller, which I am super excited to be getting into. I'm going to have to record them weird. I've decided I am going to cover full-on stories, and it's like 4 to 5 episodes per story. So, like, I'm going to have to do some kind of awkward recording where I record like 2 episodes of, 2 nights worth of the Twilight Zone, and then 2 nights in a row do a watch along and a review of Armchair Thriller, and then another couple episodes, and then a night or two until Armchair Thriller is done. I think it's only going to be like 4 or 5 total stories, so we should get through it in about a week and a half. I did find a place to watch it. I don't know how it's going to work because I don't know if they do ads or not. We're going to find out when we get there, though. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and get started. And please remember, if you want to see everything a week earlier, a full week earlier, hop on over to the Patreon. It's in the link in this link's in the description below. Everything comes out a week earlier over on Patreon. Without further hubbub, let's jump into this. I also thought, okay, there's my list. No, I'm not doing this off the top of my head. I have a list. Stop peeking. All right, so I know you guys can't see it, but this is for me. All right, the Cuckoo Clock of Doom is my number 14. To anybody that might have been following along, I do not like this episode. I do not like the story. There is a lot of plot points in the Cuckoo Clock of Doom that I was just not a fan of. I don't like the idea of moving backwards and past every time you go to sleep. The only time I've ever thought the moving backwards in time has ever truly worked was what was it? Over on Family Guy, and even then I wasn't a big fan of that episode, but I could at least stomach it. I struggled with this episode. I struggled with it when I was watching it with my daughter. I struggled with it when we were going back through it for the channel. I am not a fan of the Cuckoo Clock of Doom. My number 13, Phantom of the Auditorium. So, the different struggle that I have with Phantom is, while I know it's not the exact same story, I've never been a big fan of the overall story of the Phantom of the Opera. And I know this is kind of a reimagining and retelling of the Phantom of the Opera, and I know it's not the exact same story, but it pulls enough from the Phantom of the Opera that I am just not a fan. I feel bad because someone somewhere is that's going to be someone's favorite, and I honestly, these two would probably be amongst the bottom 2 of the entire series for me, let alone just season 1. No, whenever we get around to other seasons, I will not go back and re-rank all of the seasons together. Not going to happen, for future reference. All right, my number 12 is Return of the Mummy. So again, Return of the Mummy, it just mostly struggles with my distaste for mummy stories. For those of you that don't know, I struggle with classic movie monsters. Now, that's not to say that there's not versions of classic movie monsters that I don't that I don't or I do like, right? For instance, I'm not a fan of vampires as a whole, but I do like a few vampire movies. Like I love John Carpenter's Vampire. I love Interview with the Vampire. I love the vampire portion of Van Helsing. Lost Boys is good, but typically I struggle with vampire stories. I'm not a big fan of zombies, but I love The Walking Dead. I'm not a big fan of werewolves, but I do like A Werewolf in Paris. So there's exceptions to all the rules, right? But as far as just classic movie monsters, mummies, things like that, I'm just not a fan. Return of the Mummy kind of, where 13 and 14 are listed as bad for me, it would be considered bad for me. 12 through probably 12 and 11 are just considered, I can watch them, right? But I don't, I would prefer not to. And then 10 up is basically I could watch any of the episodes as many times as allowed. I love them. And it's just a few degrees of separation from number to number. My number 11 is My Hairiest Adventure. And a part of that reasoning is they paint it up to almost make it seem like it's going to be its own little werewolf story, like he's growing hair and stuff, and it kind of has that werewolf look to him, like the transformation of the werewolf, but then it turns out he's just turning into a dog. And while it's a fun little story, it just kind of, it just falls into that number. It's okay. It's okay. I did enjoy it. I still enjoy it. Would I watch it again? Absolutely. Just like I would probably watch Return of the Mummy again. I will probably never watch The Cuckoo Clock of Doom or Phantom of the Auditorium again. I just won't. Unless, of course, you're like a grandkid or something wants to watch it with me. Hopefully, which is not going to be anytime soon. I'm just saying. But no. Enjoyed it. My Hairiest Adventure. My number 10 is It Came From Beneath the Sink. It Came From Beneath the Sink is so much fun. So much fun. I love the story of, I don't remember what they called it. Was it a gruel? I believe is what it was called. It was a gruel. Or maybe that was the evil potato. I don't remember. But I love the idea of this little bad luck sponge that it always causes bad luck. And the only way to keep it small, because it starts to grow towards the end, is to feed it positive vibes. It's such a fun little twist. And again, the very, very end, them getting the demon potato that sucks the life force out of you. It was just a lot of fun. Also, a lot of really good acting came along with it. It was just a lot of fun. My number 9 is, damn it, don't you start with me. My number 9 is The Girl Who Cried Monster. Always an episode that I've loved. I love the idea of the main character in the story being a bookworm and loving scary stories, because as somebody who can only read scary themed stories, I struggle. I can't even do fantasy, and I actually love fantasy. I love the medieval ages. I love playing video games set in fantasy worlds, Baldur's Gate, things like that. I play D&D. I can't read it, though. I can't do The Hobbit. I can't read The Lord of the Rings. I can't read C.S. Lewis books. I can't read Harry Potter. I can't. The only thing that keeps me entertained reading-wise is horror. So for her to be like, yeah, I didn't really enjoy this book, but I would love to do something like the Frankenstein or something, a lot of fun. And then for her, for her, like I absolutely love the twist of the at the very end too, where their family is monsters. The kids know that they're monsters, um, and that's why they're trying to tell their parents, "Hey, there's other monsters here," and their parents took care of it by eating the guy. And again, the implication of the kids sitting there and being forced to watch their parents just mow down on this guy is insane for a child's book. And obviously, they didn't show it in the episode or anything like that, but just the implication that's there is so much darker and a lot of fun. All right, my number 8, as we're coming up on halfway through the list, is Stay Out of the Basement. Da, da, da. So, Stay Out of the Basement is one of the two-parters that I had a lot of fun with. It was one of the last few episodes that we watched. It's the one where the dad is working on a special project, mom goes out of town, and as dad's working on this special project, I need to back it up a little bit more. Let me see if I can... There we go. That's where we want to be. But no, it's a fun episode. He creates the duplicate of himself. The daughter tricks the bad one into something very simple at the end, but then they imply that like the real dad got killed or whatever. It's just a lot of fun and really really well paced for it being a 2-part episode, if I'm being honest. My number 7, Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. Now, it's going to be a surprise to somebody that this is as high up on the list as it is, because this is probably considered one of the more boring episodes. I was in band in high school, so I have a love for classical and music and learning how to play instruments and stuff. And while the kid, was obviously doing it for a girl, I absolutely loved the idea of the guy that's training him being a robot and trying to steal people's hands, and it's actually just an extension of the guy that builds all the things for the place, that's running it, and then like his mom's a ghost that's trying to help save the kids. That it's just a lot of fun. And the guy that was the teacher that was the robot, just the look on his face when it was so well done. I thoroughly enjoy that episode. My number 6, Welcome to Camp Nightmare. Welcome to Camp Nightmare is another one of those 2-parters, and I think it was the last 2-parters that we covered that we actually separated the 2 parts into 2 separate watch-alongs. This was the one, if I remember correctly, that made me decide to move forward. Moving forward, I would just combine 2-parters together because it didn't, or multi-part episodes together, because it just didn't make sense to drag things out longer than they needed to be. Welcome to Camp Nightmare is a lot of fun. It's about a kid that goes to a camp, and a bunch of the campers start disappearing, and it's like down to him and this other girl, and he refuses to go hunt, or he refuses to join the other groups of boys to hunt down this other girl and shoot her with a tranquilizer dart and stuff. But every little bit of all the things that happen is basically him being trained to go to Earth, because they're not actually on Earth. They're training to go to Earth to live amongst human beings, and he passes all the tests with flying colors, and it was just a lot of fun. This is one that I could watch in a playlist of Goosebumps episodes, and it would come up and I would pay attention. It is that fun. My number 5, surprisingly, after what I said earlier, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp made it pretty high on the list, and there's a couple reasons. First and foremost, this is a tale that was told very well. I had a lot of fun watching this 2-parter. It was the season finale for us that we were watching. I love the idea that Brendan Fletcher, I think is his name, or something along those lines, was the guy or the kid that he grows up to be in, like Freddy versus Jason, as one of the teens that are one of the 2 people that are locked away in the institution, in Springfield Institution. Or he goes on to become the main adult that's goes on a killing spree in the movie, in the Rampage series. I like him as an actor. He's just very good at what he does. And again, you knew Will was going to be the werewolf throughout the entire episode. If you watch horror, you know that's where they were going with it. Maybe as a kid you didn't, if you watched it when I watched it, because again, this came out in like 96. So that was long, long time ago. And the only reason I remember Will's name because this was the last episode we just watched. And Grady. And Bandit is the dog. It had a couple plot points I'm not a fan of. Like the parents always never believing the kids drives me batshit. But I do like these two episodes. Very well done, put together. And again, the pacing was perfectly fine for it to be spread between two episodes. Did not feel like two episodes. My number 4 is Night of the Living Dummy 2. Again, another just Night of the Living Dummy 2, and well, the Night of the Living Dummy books, period, and the Night of the Living Dummy 2, among other. That's pretty much what got me into ventriloquism when I was younger. Now, obviously, I never made it like a job of mine. I'm no Jeff Dunham at all, but it's fun, and I love to talk with people without moving my lips, because some people don't believe that I can do it. Now, obviously, some things sound iffy. There are certain words that are hard to enunciate. There's certain syllables that are hard to enunciate without being able to move your lips and closing, your lips touching. But there are ways around it. There's ways you can disguise it. Obviously, I never mastered it, but it's still fun to mess with people sometimes. But no, Night of the Living Dummy 2 has always been one of my favorites. And I can't wait to get into more Night of the Living Dummy. I also loved what they did with Slappy in the newer series that came out in 2024, as this is being recorded. Or 2023. It might have been 2023, 2024. Sometime within the last year and a half. The one that has Justin Long. Really well done. My number 3 is going to surprise you because it's a lot of people's number 1. But The Haunted Mask is my number 3. Again, very few degrees of separation between my, honestly, like top 10. I'd say probably top 6. Like my top 6, there's very few degrees of separation. I love The Haunted Mask, guys. It's, as somebody who owns scary masks, I don't think you can actually see them with the way the camera is right now, but I've got like a Captain Spaulding and a Freddy one. I got Michael sitting over there because we got to replace him because he's just old and falling apart. I love Halloween masks, and to make an episode where like the mask is taking over her face. Was it Mary Beth, I think was her name. It was just really well done, and it teaches her that like how much it's important to just love your family, love who you are, and love who you are on the inside. And then of course the twist ending with the brother putting on the mask at the end. Magnifique. My top 2. We're up to the top 2, guys. You ready? My number 2. Say Cheese and Die. This was a surprise. I remember Say Cheese and Die being basically like my favorite. It's being like my favorite Goosebumps book, my favorite story, and one of my favorite episodes. It's Ryan Gosling as a kid, which is wild. Because again, I didn't even remember Ryan Gosling was in the damn series. Just like I didn't remember that the dude that was in Werewolf of Fever Swamp, I didn't realize he was in this series either. It's just one of those things that as I'm watching through again, I'm like, oh crap. And I knew I liked Say Cheese and Die, and Ryan Gosling's a good actor. The reason it falls to number 2 for me is the acting. Either Ryan Gosling did so well that everyone else just looked bad, or everyone else just was bad. Like whoever it is that plays the cop, one of the cops, the guy cop that comes to the door to question Ryan after his friend goes missing, trying to do the bad cop thing. I'm like the dude. I swear to God, was barely older than Ryan Gosling was at the time. You had the lady that was with him, and she didn't come off as very believable as a cop. All the friends kind of sucked at their roles. I'm just, again, great story. Had the acting been better all around, aside from Ryan, because Ryan did a fantastic job. Everyone else was mm, mm, rough. It was rough. Which brings me to my number one. A surprise for me, A Night in Terror Tower is my number one for season one. And this is. I love the story. They did a really good time traveling story. They make you believe that they're just in a dream and everything that's happening. I think even as a kid, I thought they were just in a dream. I didn't quite understand what the ending implied. But when it does come around, it implies that they are traveling through time so that they have an actual opportunity to live instead of having their heads chopped off like they were going to. But it being set in between both present day and the medieval ages, again, I'm a medieval age fan in terms of storytelling. As a matter of fact, if you ever want to see some prime medieval age storytelling mixed with horror, there is an anime, depending on who you are, or a manga called Berserk that is fantastic. Please do not read it unless you're an adult. It is extremely bloody, gory, vulgar, sexually explicit, but it is fantastic storytelling. The only sad thing about it, honestly, is it'll never be finished because the author who was in the process of making it passed away, Kentaro Miura, a couple years ago, which is absolutely devastating because it is. I look over here. It used to be over here in my collection. It's now back in the bedroom. I've got the first 10 deluxe volumes. I think it goes up to like 15, so I've still got a couple more to get. But I love the stories. I love Berserk. It's such a good, well told story. But yeah, Night in Terror Tower is my favorite episode. I think the acting is done well all the way around. It's another two-parter that doesn't feel like a two-parter. Like you watch it and it actually just feels like it's well done. Well done. All right, guys. That is going to do it for this ranking. Thank you guys for hanging out with me again. And tomorrow we'll be doing another, what's the thing called? We'll be doing another Twilight Zone. And the day after that, we will be starting Armchair Thriller, which is an old 70s British horror thriller anthology. So I'm excited for it, and interested to see what's going to happen. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I love you guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.